piano tutor and welcome to lesson 7. In today's lesson we're going to be talking about staccato and accent, repeat signs and rests. In last lesson we talked about the new notes quavers, which are worth half a beat. We were having a look at Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and theme from the choral symphony, so hopefully you guys have all got the hang of that. So let's move straight on to lesson 7. So in today's lesson, lesson 7, we're going to be going through Old MacDonald's Farm. I know it's a bit of a children's nursery rhyme, but it's exactly what we need to do this staccato and accent in. So what you'll see, you can read on the information on the top there, all about staccato and accent. Staccato is just a shortened note. If I were to quickly just play that on the piano, it would actually be just a very short note as opposed to sort of holding the note. Okay. So we're also going to be having a look at Scarlet Ribbons as well. That's just got a repeat mark in it, which I'll go through. And the one after that as well, which is Annie's Song, and that's going to be all about rests. So if we just have a quick little look at Old MacDonald's Farm, you can see that the dots underneath the notes are to be played staccato. So you cut the note short, as I just demonstrated. If there's a line underneath the note, you don't hold the note any longer than it should do, but it is just for its full value. So it's just basically a contrast to the note that you've just cut short. So these ones are all going to be short notes, and this one's just going to be held for its full value, which is 2 beats. These ones are all short, and this one's 2 beats. If I was explaining staccato notes to my students, I would tell them to imagine that the piano keys, these white keys, are like a radiator which is burning hot. If you put your finger on a radiator, you're only going to be able to hold it there for a second or two, and then before you've got to remove it again, otherwise you've just burnt your fingers. So if you imagine that the piano is hot, you're literally tapping the key and then you're coming off very quickly, as opposed to, which is what we've done in the scales. So I'm going to play Old MacDonald Had a Farm. I'm going to play a little bit for you anyway. So just to go over to this last section here, a lot of students often ask me what this little bit means here. It's just basically the same rhythm, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. The same rhythm that you would normally do, however, it's just going to be right hand, left hand, right hand, right hand, left hand, right hand, right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand, right hand. So it's the same rhythm as it would normally be if it was played in either just the right hand or just the left hand, but we're just swapping between the right and the left hand whenever the music tells us. So that's it with Old MacDonald's Farm. Just a nice little simple easy one to get us going there to practice staccato. Just moving on to Scarlet Ribbons now. The only thing really we have to worry about in Scarlet Rhythms are these little markings here. They almost look like kind of train track, end of line, train track. So you've got your thick line, thin line, like you do have at the end, but you've got 2 little dots. Now that means that you repeat to either the beginning, which is in this case, or where you see the opposite ones of these. So these ones are facing left, and you'd have a look backwards in the music to any that are facing the opposite way, and that's where you'd go back to it. And so this case, it is actually the beginning. So you'd start at the beginning, obviously, play all the way through to here, go back to the beginning, you play it all through again. This time you'd carry on all the way until the end. You can also see that you've got to play that for a second time as well, because you've got two rows of words, so 2 verses in other words. So I'm just going to play up to the repeat sign for you. And then I would repeat that again. So 2 nice and easy pieces for you there, folks. So go away and practice them so that you get the hang of the staccato and just learn to remember what the repeat sign looks like in Scarlet Ribbons. So now we're going to be moving on to Annie's song, which is page 42. So this is about rests and silence. Now, in theory, the other pieces in this book should have had rests in certain places, perhaps where the hands aren't playing any notes, for example, but because they weren't introduced at that point, we haven't actually got them. We haven't got them till now. So basically, for every type of note there are, so the 1 beat note, the 2 beat note, the 3 beat note, the 4 beat note, and the new half a beat note, there is a matching rest that goes with it. That's on page 42. So having a look on page 42, you've got your 1 beat note looks like, your 1 beat rest, sorry, looks like this. Your 2 beat rest looks like this, your 4 beat rest, and this is your half a beat rest. Now we have a 3 beat note, but we don't always have a 3 beat rest. That kind of doesn't come in till later, so we don't use that often. But I won't go into any more details and confuse anybody. So now if you're having a look at Annie's song, you've got a few rests here. So if we've got 3 beats in every bar, which we have here, then we should have the appropriate amount of rests to whatever we've got in that bar. What you also have in here as well, see these 2 notes here, F and D, because they're on top of each other, you just play them at exactly the same time. So instead of playing an F and then a D, or a D and then an F, you play the 2 notes at exactly the same time. So we'll show you that when I demonstrate it for you. At this stage, what I would do now for my students is to get them to put in the rests for Scarlet Ribbons. So in this piece here, for example, we should have some rests in certain places. So every bar should add up to 3. So this one here only has 1 beat in it. We should have a 2 beat rest. So 2 beat rest plus 1 obviously equals 3. In this bar here, we've got a 2 beat note, so we should have a 1 beat rest, and so on and so on. So you'd need to do that for the top line and for the treble clef line and the bass clef line. So you need to do it for all of those lines. I'm just going to do that now for you and then show it to you. You can freeze the video and just check it against your answers. So here are the answers for you. So if you notice here, first of all, I've got a 2 beat rest, which is the one that sits on top of the 3rd line, followed by a 1 beat note, so that's 3. I've got a 2 beat note here, and I've got a 1 beat rest here. And another thing, I've got a 2 beat rest here as well, because I've got a 1 beat note. So the difference between the 2 beat rests and the 4 beat rests are that the 4 beat rests hang off, the little block hangs off the 4th line, and the 2 beat rest, the little block sits on top of the 3rd line. So if I just zoom out a second, if I just set that up for you. So hopefully you've checked your answers against mine and you can make sure that they're all right and everything. What you could do is feel free to go back into the book, some of the songs that we've done, and again fill in the rests there. You'll only be able to do that from Love Me Tender and onwards because they're the only ones that have the 2 staves in that we can do that for. So go ahead and do that if you want to. Okay, so we're nearly at the end of the book, and that's nearly almost it for the course of lessons. But really in this book, that's everything now that I've more or less covered. Go through and just kind of reiterate and just refresh your memory to all those things that we have talked about. So now I'm going to play Annie's song for you so you can get an idea of what that's going to sound like. I'll just play a couple of lines or so for you. Okay, so that was just a little bit of Annie's song for you. As I was just playing that, I was just thinking one other thing that I need to mention to you, and that is all those ties. Don't forget those ties. When you see, these are the ties here. When you've got to play that C and that E together, you've got the 2 E's at the top that are tied and the 2 C's at the bottom. So first of all, these 2 notes are 3 beats, so you hold the C and the E for 3 counts. You don't hold each one for 3 counts, just both of them together. Because they're on top of each other, they both, in a sense, sort of count as 1 note. And you've got to hold them to this 2 beat note here. So in other words, 3 plus 2 would equal 5. On the other page, you've got, especially at the end here, you've got an 11 beat hold here. So you're holding for 3, 3, 3, and 2. So that's going to be held for quite a long 11 beats.